Hi, and welcome to another QwikTouchPro video. In this video we'll be using a DataView to automatically create some items from our keystroke inventory export in a pop-up window. So the first thing we need to do is export our keystroke inventory, and we do that through just a standard KS export. I've created an icon or a shortcut on my desktop. I'll show you my flags here and switches. So KS export.exe. I've got the flags equals 4 in there, includes the column header, which makes it a lot easier in QwikTouch to refer to the column names. File, this is the export file we want to create. Default is export.txt if you don't specify. I specify QTP export.txt because our templates moving forward will be, basing their inventory items off these keys when they open, or off this inventory export when they open up. And we want to make sure that this file doesn't get overwritten with wrong data from another export or get deleted or something like that. So let's make our own file for it. And the last switch I have on here is this /d tutor. These videos are using the tutor data, so that's where we'll export from. So we'll say OK, and we'll refresh our export. You see the KS export window pop up. And if we look in our keystroke folder, we should have a QTP, somewhere under the Q's down here. There we go. We have a QTP export file, which is all of our inventory items. So we're done there. So now we can go to the QwikTouchPro editor and create a template. This all looks good. We'll take the defaults for our video here, and we'll save it as our inventory pop-up window, and we'll choose save. So we exported our inventory. Now we need to create a QwikTouchPro data source to point to that export.txt file, and we do that under the data tab over under the data sources group, and we're going to choose new. And we'll change the type from SQL Server to comma separated values, and that's what our export.txt file format is. And here it wants the file name of our export file. So we'll browse out to our keystroke folder, and we'll scroll down and find QTP export.txt. And now this is easy to change later. If you change your export back to export.txt, or if you need to rename it to something else, you just need to come in and edit this data source and point it to the correct file. And all your templates will use this data source then for a reference. Anyway, you can see once we imported that file, we see that we have 134 columns in our data source there. And since we did that flags equals 4, we can put a checkbox here in first row contains column headers. And now we can refer to all these columns by list price, base price, sale price, whatever. And when we hit create, we're going to be prompted to save this data source definition, and that's going to go in our QwikTouchPro programs folder. And we'll just call this KS export and choose save. Add this data source to the active template. We'll say no. And we're almost ready to add our data view. We've got our export, we've got our data source created for it, but the data view is going to use an item template to tell it how to describe all these items from our data source. And that's just another QwikTouchPro template. So we'll choose new. And this is whatever size you want your keys to be. Like, in the standard 16 by 11, they're all 2 by 1s or 1 by 1s for the most part. We're going to make this 2 columns wide and 2 rows tall. And because it's an item template, the rest of this doesn't apply, so we'll just say OK. Zoom out a little bit. And we're just going to build this like we would a regular key. We'll put a border on for a background. And we'll put some text on here for the description. And now again, we don't want to just type description in here. This is a template for all the items in our database, so we want to grab the description from our export and put it here. So we do that under the data tab, data binding group. We need a data source, and we have to browse out to it because it's not on our template yet. We want KS export. That's the one we just created a few minutes ago. And that fills our data path drop down here with all of our column headers from our export file. And we want description. And with our text selected, we'll hit apply. And if we make our font a little smaller, you'll see that says description. And maybe we'll make it bold, line at top. Make sure it wraps to more than one line with this text wrapping icon over here. And let's just save that, and we'll call it inventory item template. And we'll say save. And now if we go into our inventory pop-up window, we're ready to add our data view. And we'll just grab a data view, toss it on the canvas here. And first thing, choose a data source. That is our KS export file we grabbed, or that we just created. Choose open. Browse for a template to represent each item. Well, that is our inventory item template, that little 2x2 key we just made. And we'll say open. We'll skip the rest of this for now. We'll change orientation. I would like to go horizontal so my list scrolls up and down. And we'll say OK. And you can see there is our inventory items. That's on. Oh, sorry, I grabbed the canvas there with my zoom. There's our scrolling list of all our inventory items. if we make this a little bigger, zoom back up, make this fill the screen, for example, get all inventory items on there. And if we preview this with Control P, and I'm going to use mouse wheel to scroll up and down here. And you can see there we just have one key for every item on from our inventory export, 150 items, whatever it is, and we see the descriptions. So let's change this file a little bit. First thing I see is that 2x2 is actually bigger than we need. So let's exit this. Let's go back into the editor, and let's go back into our item template. And we just want to resize this, make it a little smaller. Maybe look better like that. Make the description a little smaller. And notice all we did was just we resized the border and the text, but we didn't resize the template. So if we save this right now and go back and refresh our inventory pop-up, you'll see that we now have space between each one of our keys. And what we want in this case is actually we want this whole thing to be smaller, so we need to resize the template too. So we go up under Template Properties, and 2x2 just like we made it, but we actually want what, like 1.5 maybe. Oh, not even close. Looks like we need template properties. We need to go to 1.3. Alright, and you can see now that our template's the same size as our control. So when we save that, go back into our pop-up window and refresh. Now all our keys fit on the screen, right? So what else can we do this thing? Maybe we want to add the price and spruce it up a little bit. So let's go in and add a text control for the price. This is going to be the list price from our inventory export. So that's again under data binding. We've got our export selected. We're going to go down and find list price, and we're going to format it as currency with a 0:C here, and we'll hit apply. And again, to know how big to size the text on this, we can go under home and we can put whatever text on this we want. It's still bound to the list price. So $99,999.99 is again that's the biggest number I ever expect to see in that box. So I can size my label accordingly. Size my text accordingly. A little smaller. And we could justify that maybe. And let's also change our background color. We can just make it maybe some kind of blue-gray or something there. That's fine. And if we save this now, we go back into our inventory pop-up window, refresh our template. We'll see we have our all our inventory here. We can preview it again with Control P and just show you again big scrolling list. And you'll also see that our prices, we have 6, but we don't have the $sign on there. And that goes back to, let's go back into the editor. When we're setting up our data source, which we can check again under data sources, and now we can go back and edit that KS export file we saved earlier. When we open that up, all these columns down the left side tell QwikTouchPro what kind of data is in these columns. And we've told it that list price is a text, and it can't format text as currency. It needs to be a number. So we need to change that, and instead of number, we'll take decimal, of course, because it's 8.93. You can go through and update as many of these any of these columns you think you're going to be filtering or basing conditions off of or something like that. You'll probably know when you need to update this. And of course, this file is reusable, so if you can build a nice base here that you can reuse future if you update all these columns ahead of time. So we could go through and make that number, for example. Anyway, we just need list price for now. So we'll say update, and if we just refresh our template, there we go. We should see $signs in front of all those now. So then we have all our keys. So the last thing we want to do here in this video, anyway, is we want to, when we touch one of these keys, we want to add that inventory item to our keystroke sale. So first thing we'll do, let's get our data view out of the way a little bit so we'll be able to see keystroke when we get it open. And we can make it a little shorter actually. And this is where we're going to assign the macro is to the data view. So we'll go under Controls, Macro Editor with data view selected. And we're looking at the source is data view 1, selection changed. That's right, but we're actually going to take this opportunity to rename our data view. And we do that over here on the Properties tab with the data view selected. And I'm going to call this Inventory List. Leave. And we do that because we're going to be referring to this later through some macros and targeting it, and we want to be able to easily recognize it as inventory list. And it's a lot easier to change now because you don't have to go through and change all the references to it later. So anyway, inventory list. We'll just right click on it, go into its macro editor. So now we've got inventory list. When the selection changes, what do we want to do? Well, we want to add whatever item they touched to the current sales screen. And that's going to be like normal, active program, send text. And this is the stock number of the item we want to send, but we can't just type it in. We need to get the selected item off our data view over here. And we do that through the source control builder, anywhere you see this little icon with the 3 shapes on it. And source type is a data view. That's our inventory list. That's what kind it is. The select the source inventory list. That's the only data view we have on our template, so it's the only one on the list. And select the value. Number is stock number, which actually is what we want. But you can see you have all your options here. And we're going to say, just take the defaults here, then say OK. And so what we're looking at here is when they touch the inventory list, when the selection changes, we're going to send text to the active program. And the text is we're going to send a stock number from the inventory list, which means the selected stock number. And so we'll say OK. And we also want to send a code for a return, which actually adds it to the invoice. And it should be good for now. So let's close that and save it. Well, actually, we'll just preview it. And if we go back into our keystroke, clerk in, clear our sales. So now if we touch, gotta be careful what we touch with the tutor data here. 11-inch writing tablet. You can see we've got this scrolling list. As we touch our items, they're added to our sale. And that concludes this video. In the next video, we're going to take this scrolling list of inventory items we've created. We're going to add it to our 16:11 template, or actually create some buttons that'll show this pop-up, filter it by department, and be able to bring the items up that way. So, as always, thanks for watching.